This is part one of a basic primer on how to grow tomatoes at home. We're going to cover growing them in the ground and growing them in pots. Raised beds are kind of a halfway point between those two options. They're basically giant pots. This video will cover preparing your soil, selecting your plants, and getting them in the ground. I would say tomatoes are the most worthwhile food to grow yourself. Nothing comes close to the taste of a vine-ripened, homegrown tomato. I have a whole video explaining why that is the case. It's linked in the description. If you're going to grow tomatoes in the actual ground, I think it's worth your time to test the soil first. Find out if you need to add any nutrients or anything. Tomatoes are what they call medium to heavy feeders. They need rich soil. There's lots of soil testing kit options that you can Google, but if you live in the United States, like I do, Google the name of your state plus the words soil test and extension. Every state in the Union has a public land-grant university with an extension office. That is a department with the mission of extending the university's mission out to the people, particularly as it pertains to food and growing things. This is a legacy from when land-grant schools were basically farmers' colleges. All the extension offices offer soil testing. Here in Georgia, the kit costs $15. You pay your money and the kit comes in the mail. It'll have very precise instructions. Just do whatever it says. This one tells me to take at least 8 samples from all around my garden. You take a trowel, you dig a little hole, and then you cut a slice of dirt from the side of the hole. You're trying to get a little cross-section of dirt going down a few inches. It's important to combine samples from all over the garden because the dirt could really vary a lot from place to place. The kit tells me to mix all my samples together, pull out any big rocks or leaves or sticks, and then let the dirt dry overnight. There it is, nice and dry. Fill the bag up to the line, and then in the mail this goes to the lab. Less than a week later, they emailed me my results. My garden needs phosphorus and some alkali. Don't worry if that means nothing to you. The soil report will tell you exactly what to do about it. Just do what it says. Helping me prepare my garden is my University of Georgia County Extension agent, Carol Kelly. If you live in the U.S., there's a person like this for your area whose whole job is to help you grow things, and your taxes have already paid for them. They offer free classes and advice.
I think we are a lesser-known resource in the community. I think some of our older clients probably know us a little bit better than some of the younger generations, so we're always happy to introduce ourselves to whoever wants to get some good information from us.
The first thing to do is to get my soil pH a little higher. If I don't do this, my fruits will be susceptible to blossom end rot, which is exactly what it sounds like. It happens when the tomatoes physiologically cannot absorb enough calcium from the dirt.
Here in Georgia, our soils tend to be more acidic because of the soil type we have, and we usually have to put lime on to raise the pH up to the correct range. Some of your other viewers may have pHs that are way too high, and they would use sulfur to lower the pH to get it in that right range so the plants can absorb the fertilizer that you put on.
Again, just do whatever your soil report tells you. Mine says to add 40 pounds of garden lime per 1,000 square feet. My garden is 10 by 10, so 100 square feet. This bag has 40 pounds, so we are simply eyeballing 1/10 of the bag. You should probably actually weigh yours, just scatter it on. Next, fertilizer. My report tells me to broadcast 30 pounds of 10, 10, and 10 per 1,000 square feet.
So about 3 pounds of 10, 10, 10. Yeah.
No doubt you are wondering, 10 what, 10 what, and 10 what?
Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. That's the 3 macronutrients that plants require. So this bag will have 10% nitrogen, 10% phosphorus, and 10% potassium. So if you see a fertilizer that's 15-0-15, then it would not have the phosphorus. The soil test dictates which kind of fertilizer you need.
And this is where the word broadcasting comes from. It's a farmer term. It means scattering things onto the ground relatively indiscriminately, as opposed to, say, placing one seed at a time exactly where you want it. Oh hey, is fertilizer like this natural?
For the organic people, it would probably not be acceptable. There are organic fertilizers like bone meal and fish emulsion and things like that deliver lower nutrient quantities analysis, but for the general gardener, this is a very common product.
Look, I definitely think organic farming has an important role to play in feeding the world sustainably. But for my tiny little home garden, I say screw it. What we're doing here is not what is causing the Great Gulf of Mexico dead zone or whatever. From an environmental perspective, be more worried about what you put on your lawn. That's a more significant scale. Now we're going to till the garden, just digging down into it a few inches and upending the soil with a shovel or a pitchfork. There are actually tillers that you can buy, but for a small garden, I think there's no point. Just use a shovel. This gets the fertilizer mixed in, it loosens and aerates the soil for planting, and it kills or damages those weeds, though I'm not really worried about them. They are winter weeds. They're going to die as soon as it gets hot. In anticipation of the summer weeds, we're going to put down a so-called pre-emergent herbicide.
People that are not in favor of using chemicals in their gardens, they would probably not do the herbicide application. It's a product labeled for the garden. It's safe to use in the garden, and so it will provide a barrier to prevent lots more weeds coming up this summer.
It's best to wear garden gloves when handling fertilizers and herbicides.
Let's not get the shot of me dumping herbicide all over my hand.
Put on however much the instructions say, and you can certainly skip this if you're uncomfortable with it. This is my first time trying it. I'll use a rake to kind of work that into the soil and also smooth things out and get ready to make rows. That's when you mound the soil up into some long hills onto which you will plant your stuff in a line. Not everybody does rows. I'm down with rows. They bring order to the garden.
It allows you to kind of figure out spacing for plants. You don't want plants overcrowded because that causes more disease problems, insect problems.
For tomatoes, I think you want rows pretty far apart from each other, about 4 feet or well over a meter. You got to leave room for your body so you can work on each plant as it grows, tying it, pruning it, harvesting, etc. The mounding is mostly just a visual guide for this purpose, but also makes the tomatoes easier to plant for reasons that you'll soon see. The mound also drains some water down away from the plants, which in my book is a good thing. I can add water to my garden, I can't take it away, and it tends to get really wet in my backyard. If your garden tends to be really dry, maybe just plant into the flat ground.
So drying out a little bit quicker and temperature fluctuations. So if you get your tomatoes in and we have a late freeze, the mounds might be affected a little bit more than they would be if they were just planted straight in the ground. But I think at this point, I think the pros outweigh the cons with the mounds.
Thank you, Carol. She's going back to work, and I'm finishing up here. Working in the garden all spring and summer is one of my top 5 favorite things to do, and it's one of the few times that I can listen to podcasts or music all by myself, which I can do with my new Bluetooth speaker from Cove, the sponsor of this video. This is Cove's Commuter 2. It links right up with my phone, and I can get it pretty darn loud. Listen to this guy on SoundCloud. Wow, what an undiscovered talent. So that's pretty awesome, but now watch. The left and right channel speakers twist apart. You can place them super far apart and you can get true stereo sound. This kind of 3-dimensional listening is not possible with a standard little Bluetooth speaker. So cool! You charge both sides at the same time and you get up to 7 hours on a charge. There's a built-in microphone for taking calls and such, and it has a 30-foot range. Significantly for me, it's water resistant, which means I can get dirt on it and wipe it off with a wet cloth, no problem. Because you watch me, you can get more than 60% off this speaker, making this one of the most affordable speakers I've seen. Save more than 60% on the new Cove Commuter Split using my link and code in the description. Thank you, Cove. Now, what if you're growing your tomatoes in containers or in a raised bed? That's way easier. Just buy a potting soil mix, something like this. It'll already have fertilizer and everything in it, and crucially for tomatoes, it'll have moisture regulators in it, peat moss and other spongy substances. Tomatoes really need an even supply of water. They can handle being a little wet, they can handle being a little dry. What they can't handle is wild variations between the two. That causes end rot, it causes the skins to split, all kinds of problems. Even moisture is really hard to guarantee in a pot, so the potting mix is spongy to hold on to water and release it slowly to the plant. For most tomato varieties, you really want big pots, like at least 18 inches or half a meter in diameter. That's about the size of this. This black one I have is huge. This magnolia tree that I bought came inside of it, but it's black, which is not ideal for the hot climate I live in. It'll absorb a lot of heat from the sun. I have to be extra careful about frequently watering whatever I put in here. For a raised bed, it's the same basic deal. You just need to make sure that you tear out the sod, the grass on the ground, before you build your bed on top of it. Now, when is it time to plant? In the springtime, when you're pretty sure the temperature is not going to drop below freezing again, and the soil temperature hits about 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 degrees C. How do you know the soil temperature? You can buy a soil thermometer, but again, here in the U.S., your local land-grant university probably has a website where you can see soil temperature reports from all over the state and close to real time. When it's warm enough, it's time to head to the store and buy seedlings, little baby tomato plants. You can obviously grow your own from seeds, but that is a whole other thing. You have to start them inside or in a greenhouse, and I do not think it's worth it if you're growing on a modest scale. Which varieties should you buy? Well, the chief distinction is between determinate and indeterminate varieties. Determinates grow more like bushes to a fixed size. Indeterminate varieties grow like vines, basically as huge as you let them. You can grow either kind in the ground, but in pots, determinate varieties generally do a lot better. I've got some of those for my pots. For my garden, I'm mostly doing indeterminate varieties, which I don't think it's controversial to say generally taste better. I think you should just get a bunch of different things and see what grows well at your place and see what you like to eat. I have found that I enjoy the Cherokee purple variety far more than anything else. I cry when they're gone, which sucks because the plants aren't very productive. So this year I'm planting a lot of them. How do you plant? Well, the first step is getting them out of their plastic containers without hurting them. And I find the best way is to gently squeeze the roots and dirt out of the container like squeezing out toothpaste. There you go. Then you got to dig a little hole, and here's the weird thing with tomatoes, you want to partially bury the plant itself, which is easier to do if you've built up a little mound. Tomatoes will actually grow more roots from their stems, which means you can help them get established by burying them like a mobster buries a guy in the sand at low tide. How deep is a matter of debate. Some people say go up to the first leaf, some people say go deeper. The producer of these particular seedlings recommends burying the plant 2/3 of the way up. Now let's talk about stakes. Tomato plants naturally grow up and then flop over and grow across the ground. They're vines. That makes very inefficient use of your space, and the fruit tend to rot on the ground. So you've got to give them something to climb upwards. Tomato cages like these are very easy. The vines will just grow up and naturally flop over the sides. If you're using a long, straight stake, you'll have to tie the plant to the stake as it grows up and to keep it pruned. The advantage, however, if you use stakes is that you can plant them closer together, 1.5 to 2 feet or about 1/2 meter. If you use cages, the plants are going to spread wider, so you need to go like 3 feet or a full meter apart. I always plant my plants too close to each other because they're so small right now. It feels so stupid to waste the space, but they're gonna grow. I still probably planted my garden too tightly this time, you'll see. You want to do the staking phase right when you put your plants in, because if you did it later, you'd be more likely to damage their root systems, which are going to spread out underground. Oh, and I definitely recommend plastic or metal stakes. Wood ones are natural and romantic, but they start to rot and break after just a couple of seasons. And get the tallest stakes you can, at least for indeterminate varieties. They'll basically climb up forever. With the pots, same basic deal. You want to leave the plants a lot of room to grow, which probably means 1 plant per pot. Though with this giant pot that I've got, I'm going to try to grow 3 of these celebrity varieties at once. I've done 2 before, I'm going to try 3. The celebrity does well in close quarters, and if I'm diligent with staking and tying these, it should work. It'll also help to keep my pots pretty well spaced out from each other. That way they can all get sun, and they'll be less likely to pass disease to each other. Regardless, your pots or your garden will need to be someplace where they can get at least 6 hours a day of full sun. Tomatoes like lots of sun. You'll want to water them right after you get them in. Being transplanted is traumatic. And in general, you'll want to water a couple times a week unless you're getting very frequent rain. Last thing to consider is mulch, something to cover all the parts of the ground that don't have tomatoes on them. This will conserve water and nutrients and discourage weeds. A great material for this is cardboard. If you have a bunch of old boxes lying around, you can literally cover all of your exposed dirt with cardboard. It's economical and effective, but I'm not sure I want to look at this in my yard all season long, so I'm probably going to get some straw too. This is my friend Rebecca's garden. Dried leaves would work great as well. Mulching definitely helps, but if I'm honest with you, I haven't bothered with my tomatoes for many years, and I've gotten great crops. That said, I'm going to try the best practices this year and see if I can't do even better. In part 2, we'll cover maintaining your plants and then harvesting. I'll have that video to you just as soon as I have something to harvest.